Welcome back to the channel, I'm Wolf and this is my YT Jeffsy 29 Pro bike check. This is my only bike, which is a YT Jeffsy Pro 29 2020 model, which I've had since October 2020, so it's around 20 months old when this video was first uploaded to YouTube. The frame size is extra large and this is a 29 model, so it has 29-inch wheels that fit me perfectly. The reach of this frame is 490mm. The frame is full carbon, so a full carbon front triangle and full carbon rear end as well. In terms of suspension, I've got 150mm of travel on the fork, which is a RockShox Pike. And on the rear I have a RockShox Super Deluxe Air Shock, which delivers 140mm of travel. The rear suspension is reasonably progressive without being over the top. From memory I've added 2 of the 4 possible volume reducers to the rear shock, and I have 2 out of the 4 spaces fitted inside the fork. This makes the bike ramp up well on those big hits, but makes sure that my bike can always use all of its travel. Let's move up to the cockpit of my bike. So I'm running an E13 Plus handlebar with a width of 780mm, and that's perfect for me. I haven't needed to cut it down. I don't think I'd ever want to go wider, it's already wide enough for me. The stem is an E13 aluminium stem, which is 50mm length, which again is perfect for me and I like that stem. And then grips are DMR Death Grips, which are the thick soft ones in red that makes the bike look good, and they also match the pedals that I've got. And they're also my favourite grips, they're really comfortable. Now onto the brakes. Originally this bike came with SRAM G2 RSCs, which are quite expensive brakes and are good, but I just felt the levers didn't feel very solid. It felt as though the brakes needed a bleed. They felt super spongy even after a few rides on the bike, and obviously these brakes were brand new. I just didn't like the feel of them. On the bike I had before this YT, which was a Canyon Spectral, I upgraded to SRAM Guide REs, which are actually meant for e-bikes. They're very powerful and simple and cheap, so one of my first upgrades on this bike was to upgrade to SRAM Guide RE brakes, and also at the same time I upgraded the rotors on this bike to 220mm on the front and 200mm on the rear. It increases the leverage of the rotor so you get loads of braking power from the brakes. This makes the bike feel great when you're braking and you get all the power you'd ever need. I'm really happy with the Guide REs, they feel way more solid and are more powerful even though they're cheaper and more basic brake. During the winter I always run a big front mudguard. Last winter I'd been using the Mucky Nuts extra long mudguard, which is great for the winter. But obviously as it's summer right now, I took that mudguard off a few months ago. In the summer I prefer not to have a mudguard, there's no point in running on really when it's dry anyway. The wheels I'm running are the stock E13 TRS Plus 29-inch model. These wheels are aluminium, they feel great, so I'm happy with those. If you're enjoying today's video, then go smash that like button below, it helps the channel out, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. For tyres, I'm running one of my favourites, which are Maxxis Minion DHR2's front and rear, 29-inch size, 2.4-inch width. I find that that's the optimum width really for me for tyres, because too thick and they just don't stick into dirt and mud. With thick tyres you don't really get very much grip. They feel wallowy in turns. In terms of tyre pressure, I always run 24 psi in the front tyre and 26 psi in the rear. That feels perfect for me. I've gone a bit harder sometimes, but then it makes the bike feel harsh and you don't get as much grip. Even if I reduce tyre pressure by 1 or 2 psi, the bike just feels different and unusual through the turns. Makes me feel less confident when I'm riding the bike. Whereas 24 psi in the front, 26 in the rear, I run it everywhere, it doesn't matter where. I always run that, whatever the conditions, those pressures are perfect for me. I've been experimenting with tyre pressures quite a bit. Moving down here to the middle of the frame, I've got a YT Fidlock water bottle, which is nice but expensive. It's magnetic, so it holds the water bottle in place. It's only come off the bike once. Moving up to the saddle and seat post, so the saddle is just a stock one that came on the bike. It's an SDG YT collaboration saddle. I find this saddle comfortable and it suits the bike, so I don't really see any reason to swap it out for something different. And then the dropper post is the YT stock one, which is a YT Postman. This dropper post has 170mm of drop. Again, I like the dropper post. 170mm of travel is good. It's enough to get it properly out of the way for the downhills. It's always been responsive. Looking to the drivetrain of this bike, which is a SRAM GX Eagle 1x12, which is stock that came on the bike. This drivetrain gives you really good range with 12 gears on the back paired with a 32 tooth chainring up front, which means I can pretty much climb anything and descend anything at speed. I hardly ever use a 50 tooth cog when I'm climbing. I don't really have a need for it, but it is useful sometimes for very steep climbs. Like all brand new bikes, my bike came brand new without any pedals, so I bought some E13 composite pedals to have a good platform size and are nice and stable, so they're really good all in and quite cheap as well. I think the bike weighs somewhere around 14.4 kilos, not totally sure. Not too bad though, but not the lightest of bikes. It's what you'd expect. It's quite a big bike, it's an extra large frame, but full carbon. I'd argue it's probably the perfect bike for UK riding. It's got enough travel, so 150mm front, 140mm on the rear, which is enough travel for most UK riding. Perfect when it's a bit flat and not too technical. I've also ridden this at uplift bike parks like Stiniog in North Wales. I even rode it down a double black trail there. It coped with it pretty well. A lot of people ride downhill bikes at bike parks like that. This copes with those kind of trails well. That brings me to the end of my bike check video. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Leave any comments you have down below. If you'd like to see me ride this down Stiniog in North Wales, then click up here. Thank you for watching.